All right, we are back here on Sportsline. Phone lines open, 737-7767 is the number. And we say hello to Robert. Robert, thanks for the call. You're first up tonight here on Sportsline.
Hey, I wanted to weigh in on the Taylor Lewan thing a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just looking at it from a personal point of view. You know, not too long ago, and I don't know anything about Taylor Lewan personally, but you look at him not too long ago, and he's walking around with his boss hog, you know, cowboy hat on and smoking his cigar, and, you know, now he's all been out of shape, upset, crying on TV, and, you know, personally I don't have any sympathy for the guy, only because, you know, I've got some teenage sons who look up to football players like these, and these guys are role models, whether they want to be or not, fair or not. They are role models to people like my son. It's, you know, very disappointing when something like this happens, and it just, you know, it lets a lot of people down, especially kids that look up to these guys, and it's just, you know, it's an unfortunate thing, but, you know, you got kids that really put these guys up on a pedestal, and again, you know, fair or not, whether they want to be or not, but kids do, and it's really disappointing when you look at teenage kids, you know, their faces, and they're disappointing when stuff like this happens to guys that they really look up to, and, you know, it's an unfortunate thing, and it's just, you know, it's just, you know, personally, it's just disappointing for kids that look up to players like this. And, you know, I just want to weigh in from that perspective.
Yeah, Robert, I think that's a great point, and thank you so much for the call, because I think there's a lot of people out there who feel like that. And actually, Taylor Lewan said as much on Thursday. We might hear some of those comments coming up tonight. When he talked to the media in depth about this, is he said, the most important thing about this to me is that those kids out there that look up to number 77 on the field and think this is a guy that I look up to and this is a hero to me, somebody I'd want to be like someday. It's important to me that those kids don't think I'm a cheater because I didn't cheat the game. And that's the thing. I do know Taylor Lewan in a working relationship sort of way, so more than most people out there do. I tend to want to take him at his word that this was an honest mistake, that he was trying to take supplements that are about life after football and all those sort of things. He did his best to go to nutritionists and doctors who would prescribe the right things, and he got a bad batch. But I can't definitively tell you that. I don't have the proof or anything about it. The only person who truly knows that answer, I think, is Taylor Lewan. You know, he says he passed a drug test in April, but then taking the same stuff in May didn't, which would lend you to believe that it's a bad batch, as he says. But I don't know that that's the truth. So you just don't know. And that's the thing. And he admitted it himself as well. So I'll use his words and not mine. That when something like this happens, 50% of the people out there believe you and will take your story, truth or whatever, and 50% of the people out there will immediately think you're a cheat and a fraud. And I think that's the case here. When you look at Taylor Lewan, there will always be difference in opinions of people who think that guy is a complete fraud and he cheated the game and he should be punished and we should always look at him differently. And there will be people who look at him and think that he either made a mistake or that he was just doing what he had been told to do and was told was okay, and unfortunately he got a bad batch of something and all of a sudden he tested positive. And again, I don't know what the answer is to that, but it will forever weigh with Taylor Lewan. And one of the things that's going to be difficult about this, I think, for a lot of people, and I think even from my perspective as I look at it, is when Taylor Lewan came to the Titans as a first-round draft pick, there was some baggage there. He got in a fight outside of a bar when he was at Michigan, faced assault charges that eventually got thrown out. He had a little bit of baggage that came with him. He ran with Zach Mettenberger early on in his career, and Mettenberger brought baggage with him and had some run-ins here in Nashville. And I think the close proximity that Lewan had to him didn't help on a Titans team that really struggled over those couple of years. He got stripped of his captaincy at one point by Mike Mularkey when he took over for Ken Wisenhunt. He had a damning personal foul late in the game against Oakland when the Titans were inside the 1 or 2 yard line set up to have first and goal. Personal foul, backed him up 15 yards. They ended up not scoring and losing. He had the game against the Packers in which he got kicked out of the game for his conduct. There were a lot of red flags early in Taylor's career where you just wondered, for all the talents, if he could harness the personality. And look, I'm in the media, so I love the personality. I love the sound bites. I love all of that from him. But you wondered if he could harness it for a time and be the player that ultimately you knew he could be based off of the talent. And the thing that's so hard about this is over the last 3 years, that's what he's done. The last 3 years, he's been an excellent football player. He's been one of the best left tackles, if not the best left tackle in football. He got paid as the highest left tackle in football last summer. He is a really, really good football player, and he had earned the trust back of the organization and I think of the fans. And now this happens. And whether it was on purpose or, as he says, unknowingly, to me, it brings back all of that stuff that he had worked so hard to put in his past and prove that he had grown up, that he's a husband and he's a father and he's a responsible player that only cares about being the best left tackle he can be for the Titans and the best person he can be in the community. He'd done a lot of work to get past that. But a lesson for everybody in life, that it only takes a small mistake, sometimes a mistake that may not even be of your doing, that can really hurt the reputation you've worked so hard to build. And that, unfortunately, I think is a bit of a reality for Taylor Lewan right now, is all of a sudden all those old things that he's worked so hard to get past get brought back up again with this. And most importantly right now, his Titans team is going to have to figure out how to play the first 4 games of the season without him. And it's not an easy stretch, with division favorites Cleveland on the road in week 1, back here for AFC South division favorite Indianapolis, a team that has been a nemesis for the Titans over the years, and then back-to-back road games at Jacksonville and at Atlanta. Taylor Lewan spoke last week, and since we got into that here in this segment, I want to get to that, because when you have a thing like this, and this was one of the things Taylor asked for, he said he wanted to be transparent. You know, he actually hasn't gotten popped by the league yet. They're still waiting for his B sample to come back and confirm the test, and everybody expects that will be the case. But he hasn't gotten official notice that he's facing a 4-game suspension yet. But he knew that people were getting word of it. I had heard some rumors and things like that. And so at some point, this story was probably going to come out. And in Taylor's own words, he wanted to tell the story first and how he thinks it happens, and that he certainly was not trying to cheat the game, at least in his own words. He wanted to tell the story. He wanted to be the messenger before anybody else did. So I think it's fair in this platform, and when we have calls like that from Robert just a moment ago, because there are a lot of people out there disappointed for the Titans, and disappointed that this guy that makes so much money, that their sons and daughters look up to on the football field, could be in this position. He wanted the chance to share his piece and his words about it, so I want to give him that. Here's Taylor Lewan last week speaking on his pending 4-game suspension for violating the performance-enhancing drug policy of the National Football League.
Hey, holding up.
I mean, it's unfortunate. I told the team today that I wanted to tell them before. It's unfortunate because a lot of media people started to sniff around, started to get a hold of it. And I just wanted to make sure that I was the one to break the news. This could be one of those things that would have led into maybe middle of August or maybe towards week 1. But I wanted this to be as little of a distraction as possible. And I just wanted to make it clear to them that I didn't take anything knowingly. I know what the policy is, and I know people will have their split opinions on it, but I've never done anything knowingly that would cheat the game. It's I'm getting all my supplements tested right now and doing all that, but for the most part, what I said in the video is truth.
Would you add supplements, Taylor, that caused this?
What's that?
Did you add supplements this
Well,
offseason?
I think it's important once me and my wife sat down after the season, and after we talked about what happened in week 1 and everything like that, we started to make a game plan of what's important and after the game of football. And the thing that's important to me is to be able to walk around with my daughter and have a coherent conversation and hopefully slow down the effects of what this game could possibly do to you. So we went and seeked help from doctors and nutritionists. Never once did I ever ask, for anything to be close to cheating or anything like that. We, these people that I work with are, have worked with other athletes, other people of status or whatever, and I invested a lot of confidence in them.
Do you usually get your stuff approved, Taylor, by the team or by the league, anything like that?
So the way, it's hard to say this stuff approved by the team or the league, because there are things like there's NSF certified, and something's NSF certified. It means a third party comes in and tests the supplements that you have made for them to test. And so when you make supplements are made in batches. They have a lot number. You make 80 or 100 of those, and you go to the next one. And then, in between, you don't know what's being put in there or anything like that, because the FDA doesn't have any regulations on supplements at all, which is something that obviously needs to change and is extremely unfortunate. So it's not, you could take an NSF certified supplement, but there's still the possibility of something being there. I think an example that was told to me, and I've looked into it a little bit, but, don't put me at the cross if I'm wrong, but the 3 players that failed at Clemson before the ACC championship game, it was also Austrian. And it's my understanding that the supplements they were taking were NSF certified from the college. I don't know if it was from the college, but I know that I was told that it was NSF certified. So there's really no way to be 100%, and I'm working with my group of people, and we're going to figure out a healthy and safe way to do this so this doesn't come up again. I don't become a distraction to this team, and I can keep moving forward of, helping this team win games and doing what I came here to do and have been, paid to do.
Was your stuff NSF certified?
For the most part, a lot of it was. I think Thorn was a big supplement that I was a part of, but I think there was 3 or 4 different companies that I was taking. Those things are being tested by a third party right now. So once I get those back, I will release that information and let you guys know. My whole thing in this thing is the reason why I put this information out is because I wanted full transparency. And I want my biggest goal for putting that video out is, if, Adam Schefter or one of you or whoever put this video out, it doesn't give me a chance to speak my piece. And there are little kids out there who see 77 on the field and look up to him and want to be him, whether they know my name or not. And I want those kids to know and those people to know that I'm not a cheater. And so that's the biggest and most important thing for me in this situation.
The nutritionist.
I'm not going to talk about that right now from a legal standpoint. It's not fair to do. I will say that since this has come out, he has helped me so much. He's even said he'll take a polygraph, and I know there's mixed feelings about that whole situation, but he's been extremely helpful, and right now he's definitely been a very good friend to me in this whole situation.
What is your emotions? I guess your emotions in the video kind of speak for themselves, but how tough is it knowing that the season's going to start, and unless you win an appeal, you're not going to be out?
Well, the way the appeal process works is, like the CBA states, it's a strict liability system. So I'm responsible for things that are in my body, whether it's on the label or not. I know I said that in the video. And so there have been times I've been told about by my agents, by other players, that there's been an appeal process. They've proven, hey, look, this is what the supplement that was tainted. This is the label. It's not on the label. And then the CBA, they still come back and say, well, you're responsible because this is what it says. And so you're still suspended. So the appeal process in this situation is much more difficult than an appeal process of like a game fine or something like that.
How does this change your approach to this training camp and preseason, knowing that you can participate there, but then have to go away for 4 weeks?
My goal in this training camp is to do whatever I can to help the tackles get ready for week 1. That's the most important thing. It's not about me. I will, my conditioning will be where it needs to be when I come back. My technique and fundamentals will be as sharp as I can possibly have them be without being on the field with the team working on those things on a day-to-day basis. But this whole thing is not about me. This is about the team and me helping out as much as I can to make sure that, it's a smooth transition, and I can help, those guys, if I'm working with the 2s or something like that, work with whoever's next to me and that group of guys and get them going and, just try to help everybody on every level I can. But the main thing is to get ready to play for me, get ready to play for week 5 and, have a successful season and do what I've done for the last few years.
You were looking forward to working next to Roger and developing that relationship. How does that take a hit?
Well, it's obviously going to take a hit because people have to get ready to play week 1, but he and I will definitely get together, whether it's after practice and stuff like that, and try to make it so it's as easy of a transition as possible. I think Roger's a pro, I'm a pro, we're going to handle this like pros, and so that's very important to us that we have that chemistry with each other, and we started to really develop it in OTAs, and we'll continue to do so whether it's during practice or after practice or before practice.
Are you aware of Ostarine the trickiness of this as a possibility?
No,
was there any question and answer about that going into this process?
So, the key word of this whole thing is being transparent with everything. They tell us every single year that this is the CBA. You are liable for what's in your system. I never heard of Ostarine before. I've looked into it. It's a SARM. People say it's they advertise it as a legal steroid, but really what it's for is for osteoporosis. It helps with bone density and muscle wasting. And it's not like, it probably wouldn't be the first pick if you were going to cheat something, especially something that's been banned by WADA since 2007. But it's one of those things that I took the risk by taking a supplement. I take full responsibility for that, and I'm so sorry that I won't be able to be here for the first 4 games of the season. I love the fans here. I love the franchise, and I really feel bad about that. However, I'm not even apologetic for taking something that I didn't know I was taking.
How long were you taking it before you got the
It's hard. That's hard to say. So my levels, there's always a level, right? And the level I was told by the doctor Dr. Lombardo, who runs the third-party testing for the NFL, he told me that my levels were below 200, which means I wasn't really getting a benefit out of those types of things. Now, his argument that could be, well, when we tested him, it could have been higher a day before, a day after. I got tested in late April or mid-April, the month of April, and I passed that test. So it must have been something, with a batch or something like that. And, the test that I took was May 28th. When I received the letter, it was either June 28th or between then and July 1st. And I took a couple of days with my wife, and she was worried, and I told her, like, it's not a big deal. I didn't do anything wrong. Like, that truth will come out. And then, it kind of goes back to a strict liability system that the NFL has. So it just, for lack of a better word, just sucks. It's just a really horrible situation to feel like this, and to walk into the locker room and tell those guys you're not going to be with them for 4 games. It breaks my heart, and it's tough, man. But I've been very candid with John and Vrabel and Miss Amy, and I told them right away, and this wasn't one of those things I was trying to figure out behind the scenes. I've worked with them to make sure, listen, the whole thing here is I don't want the legacy or whatever I've done in the last 5 years to be tarnished because of something like this that was a complete accident that I'm going to try to make up for.
You could have done, Taylor, in retrospect, what do you think you could have or should have done differently to make sure this didn't?
I guess it's really hard because anytime, like I said, anytime you take a supplement, you're liable for the things in your body, and it goes back to batches. So and I know it's kind of being a redundant thing, but it's hard to keep track of all those things now. Maybe what I could do next time is, buy in bulk and then get one tested, make sure that test passes, then I know that lot number is correct. And there's a lot of things that I'm working through right now to make sure, because I truly think it's really important for athletes to take supplements, not just to have big muscles and look great in a uniform, but it's important for your brain and your joints, your health for after football as well. And those are things that a lot of times with modern day diets, you're not going to really get. And so it's important, and it's me finding that balance and just making sure I don't get put in a situation like this again to hurt the team any further.
What's the reaction or I guess support been like since you told your teammates?
It's been incredibly supportive. Those guys have been awesome. KB came up to me. I spoke with the team before, like I said, and I told them, like I said, I wish I could have said something to them before. Unfortunately, because of the circumstances, I wanted to make sure it came from me and nobody else to begin with. But those guys have been so supportive. They know how hard I work, and they know how much I, want to do for this team, and I'll continue to try to do for this team behind the scenes for now until I'm able to play again.
You shouldn't want to be able to walk around and have a conversation. What the things that you added that you were taking? What exactly were they designed to do?
So a lot of stuff I was taking was really for brain health. It was for inflammation. Inflammation is a huge thing in the body that can really hurt you in the future if you let it stock up enough. And so I was told by a doctor after my head injury of week 1 that a brain's a lot like an ankle in a way, that if you keep putting that compounding the shots and hits on it, that eventually you're going to have a bum ankle and eventually have a bum brain. Now the NFL is doing a much better job of making us sit out, having a neutral doctor come in and test you and all that. And I think it's trending in the right direction. But for me, it was important, man. A lot changes when you have a 2-year-old daughter, as opposed to when you're just riding solo, running up and down Demumbrian on a tin roof and stuff like that.
Taylor, what is the
I don't know if I'm missing a piece of this or not, but is the real answer to just take all the stuff that you want to take, give it to this team's training staff and say, you tell me what's legal, so that if this ever happens, you at least have the cover of saying, hell, if they don't know, who would know?
Well, so I don't believe that the team would take on that responsibility, because they can give me, I can say, here's a supplement, here's a label. And they'll say, well, according to the NFL, nothing's banned on here, and you're totally fine. However, because there's no regulations with these supplement companies, that same supplement company that's the NFL says are fine or the Titans says are fine could easily, the next batch of things could come in and something could be contaminated in it, and then that's not probably something that they want to be responsible for, and I don't want to be responsible for. I think I'll have a better way to go about this, and every time I have information, I'll make sure everybody knows. But I think that one of the best things to do is maybe, like I said, buy in bulk, have your supplements that you know are good for you, are approved. Test one of those so it's the same lot number. One of those comes back, okay, there's nothing bad in here. Now I have those 20 or 30 supplements to use for the next month and a half, 2 months.
Another player went through this a couple years ago, and he was able to push it off until week 6 as far as the suspension is concerned. Is that not something that you're considering? You just want to take it on now?
It's one of those things I don't know how long this could have been pushed off, and my thought process, and I spoke with John and Vrabel about this, is I don't want to be a distraction to this team. I want to help this team, and I know that this is putting a big damper on, the fans of this team, the city, and everything like that. And I want this to come and go as fast as possible. So it's important coming from me, and it's important for me to prove that I'm not a cheater. And those are the main things that came into this decision. Now, if I could have strung it out for a game or two, well, it's never a good time to miss a game. So, I'd rather tell my truth and, everything that's right and move past that.
Bits and pieces of the CBA, Taylor. In their one section that they kind of encourage, like, if you have any questions regarding supplement, here's a 1-800 number, here's a guy to talk to. Do you feel like you should have done that? Or
well, I did. I had my nutritionists and my doctors go, and I had made sure they looked into everything. And there's an app you can use also that you scan the barcode, and it'll tell you, hey, this is green for really good, or it's in the yellow, or it's red, and it's not good. All the supplements I'm taking, from my understanding, would be would have been in the green. And like I keep going back to, there are no regulations for supplements. The FDA has 0 regulations on it. So it's a flip of the coin sometimes, and it seems like, and I always sat there and thought, well, that's not going to happen to me. I'm smart about this. I've looked into stuff. I educate myself, and unfortunately, I'm got to do a better job of that.
How hard will those 4 weeks be for you to be away from your teammates?
It's going to kill me. It's going to be a horrible feeling to sit there on Sundays and have to watch on a TV, to come to a facility I've been coming to for 5 years and know that I'm not even allowed to come in. It's gonna break my heart. It breaks my heart now just talking about it. But I think over the process of these last couple of weeks, I've taken that time to mourn, feel sorry for myself. I made that video a week or so ago in hopes of releasing it today, and that was a real emotion, and it does make me emotional from time to time. But now is no longer the time to feel sorry for myself. It's to make sure that people know the truth and people know where I was coming from, and I never meant any ill intention by this. And I'm taking full responsibility for the suspension, and that's what's most important. Is I'm not running from anything, but it's going to absolutely kill me to know that I won't be able to help the boys out. And if there is a loss or something like that, you always wonder, is there something I could have done or something like that? So it's a heartbreaking thing, but I think this will in turn eventually become a good thing, and it'll help me, be a better leader, be a better teammate, and play much harder than I already do.
Mike Vrabel said that Taylor Lewan has responded very well to this in terms of being a leader around there. He's worked a lot with the second team guys, so he's being even more a leader with them and showing them the ropes and what it takes to be a productive NFL offensive lineman. But there's no question that his absence for 4 games will be a monster blow for this Titans team at the beginning of the season. We'll see how they can overcome it against what is a difficult schedule. Our phone line's still open, 737-7767. The number? Gary has called in. Gary, good evening.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for the call.
Oh, I love it, man. I would just like to know, Listen, I mean, I'm not being shot out because I'm an athlete or what happened to me, or like whatever. But in today's, like, everything that's going on, why would you take your God-given talent that God gave you and even do it in the first place? Anything whatsoever. If God put you where he wants you to be, why would you do what you do? And I just like that.
Yeah, Garrett, I think that's a great point, and I think you are one of many, many people out there who think exactly that. I mean, Taylor Lewan is a monster of a human. He's 6'7", 300-some pounds. He moves well. He runs as fast as guys half his size at points. I mean, he is a freak of a well-built man with great athleticism, which is why he's an all-pro left tackle. I will say this, and I'm not trying to do this in a defense of Taylor, but I just want to tell you what he has said, because I think it's important. And it's important to consider, and then you can make up your own mind of what you think. His statement about this was that specifically at the end of last year, he suffered a massive concussion back in week 1. He took a blindside hit in Miami. We'll all remember it. And I mean, he was dazed and confused on the field. Missed a week plus of action because of it. And when the season was all over, he sat down with his wife and they just talked about how he was feeling and what's ahead in life, basically. And they talked about how scary that incident was and basically started formulating a plan for how does he continue to play this game that he loves, that provides so much for him and his family, but ensure that he's able to live a healthy life whenever football is over. He's got a 2-year-old daughter, to make sure that he's able to do the things you want to do with your daughter when they get older. And so they sought out some specialists and doctors and things like that to find out what they recommended. And one of the things a doctor recommended was that he take supplements that specialized in lessening inflammation, particularly in the head around the brain. And so that's what he took that was different in this offseason than what he's taken before in the past. And again, it sounds like this is a batch situation for the most part, but that's the answer. And I'm with you. I mean, I wish I had the athleticism and the size that a Taylor Lewan has and that I could go do something like that. And it's easy to sit up here and say, and if you did, and you were an NFL player, why would you take an extra supplement? Why would you feel the need to gain an extra 3 pounds or run a split second faster or whatever? But it's the reality of the work. And in this case, and again, believe it or not, but his statement is that this was not about a competitive advantage at all. And Osterin, frankly, is not a competitive advantage drug, so you wouldn't think it would be that. But simply a kind of a self-preservation type of thing for later on in life. Unfortunately, he got popped for it and he has to pay the consequences. And that's the bottom line here, is whether he's right and it was a total accident, he had no idea what was going in his body, or he didn't. The bottom line is the same. He's 100% liable under the collective bargaining agreement, and therefore he faces a 4-game suspension. Back to the phones we go. We'll say hello to Bradley. Bradley, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, on the calls, they said I'm the only Bradley that's on the line or whatever. This guy's taking supplements how he can better himself. I really don't get where everybody's going with that.
So, are you siding with Taylor Lewan here, or you think that he...
I professionally rodeoed myself.
Okay.
I mean, there is a state where you have to keep yourself up.
Sure. Yeah, no, Bradley, I appreciate it. I appreciate the call. And that's the thing, as we said earlier, in a case like this, if you're Taylor Lewan or if you're looking at the situation, I think there's about 50% of the people out there who are like the previous caller, who just think, why on earth? You are already an all-pro left tackle. Why on earth would you even put yourself in a position where something could go wrong and you could face this? And then there's other people out there, I think, who look at it and say, I believe him. I believe him that he was doing what he thought was best for his family, and it was self-preservation. long term. He didn't think he was going to, mess with the rules. It wasn't cheating. He was just trying to do something that preserves his body and his health long term, beyond the days of football. It's about 50-50. But the 4-game suspension, that's absolute. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back. More Sportsline right after this.